Hey everybody, my name is Justin Gordon. I'm CEO of Shaka Code, and I want to do an experiment. We've been doing some great work creating a lot of content articles, so I thought it'd be really fun if I talk about the articles with the author and let's figure out if they're useful or not and stuff like that. So, who's the author is
Hi team, I'm Alkesh.
All right, super. So today's topic of discussion is rate limiting. This is kind of cool. They're going to add rate limiting to ActionController. So, Alkesh, tell me a little bit about like just in your own words, what is rate limiting? Okay? Like why is rate limiting important?
Okay, so let's say you have your servers ready
Yeah,
and you have deployed your code. And what happens usually is like there is some third party service, or let's say you are into a B2B business. Or let's
yeah.
say I can take an example from my experience about Twitter. It has a very good rate limiting concept. Uh, so the thing is, the rate limiting concept came into picture because like let's say I want to fetch followers of a particular Twitter user. I have his handle or his her handle, and I want to fetch the followers. And the thing is like if I continuously bombard them, definitely the servers will go down. So
Right.
if you can think about one thing, like let's say if I'm hitting one machine with, it has a capacity of let's say only 100 requests per minute, but I'm trying to hit with 200 or 300 requests per minute, definitely that server will go down, or the
It's
response
just
time or the latency.
it's so what you're saying is that if I've got an API, I want to make sure that there's some rate limiting, right? For that
Yeah.
API, right?
Correct. So what I can do is like instead of making sure like my machine is not going down or my APIs are all time up to date and making
Right.
sure like they are available, I can put a rate limiting like okay, if you're hitting more than 100 requests or X number of requests, you might have to wait for some time, like let's say 15 minutes or 20 minutes or like an hour, and then you should be able to use it. Now,
What if
uh,
somebody to scrape my site? Is that another example, like bots and scrapers, stuff like that?
yeah, definitely. So it will definitely stop those things. Like let's say someone is trying to ping my servers all the time, and definitely I see like this IP address is a bit buggy. I can see like okay, they are trying to hit my servers or like trying to access some admin section which they are not authorized to. Definitely, then I can have a rate limit at that point.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, so one of the expertise areas of Shaka Code is web scraping. So we get around a lot of this stuff by using a proxy system so that we rotate IP addresses very quickly. So what about that situation? What about that situation, Alkesh?
Oh, then I think with the IP address, I think then maybe if that is a lot different, I think we might have to come with something different, which I feel maybe
Beyond
let's.
scope, beyond scope. So let's just say it's beyond scope, right? So
Yeah,
So but for really simple people like trying to scrape some site, that they're not going to do something fancy like rotate IP addresses, or maybe just somebody you're providing an API for a some company, a B2B API, and somebody's got a bug in their program and it keeps, hitting your server too much, right? So
yeah,
you want to throttle the request, right?
correct,
So,
correct.
so people have used a rack attack gem for ages to clean up stuff. A lot of different types of attacks will go after looking for like basically it's amazing how many Rails sites get hit with WordPress vulnerabilities. Like you see it all the time in the logs, and they're scanning for vulnerabilities. So tell me a little bit about, what's Rack Attack? What's that good for? And why is it going to be better in Rails 8?
Okay, so I think previously, like before Rails 8.0,
Yeah,
like really good gem, as you said, rack attack gem. So with
yeah,
rack attack, I think it's like definitely it's an external gem. You have to first add it to your gem file, as you can
yeah,
see in the screen.
right,
Okay, now because it's rate limiting stuff which we have to configure, you have to
right.
add this config.middleware.use rack attack to your application.rb file. And then what happens is like when you install that gem, definitely you have to create one initializer called as, I mean, you can name that file anything, but we go with like config initializers rackattack.rb, and you add a method called as throttle. So by default, what happens is your rate limiting is on the IP address, request IP address. So Now see, what I have added is like in the article is rack attack dot throttle method. I
Sure.
just give pass the first parameter is the name, what is the limit, and period is 1 minute. So within 1 minute, I can only like from this particular IP address, I can only have 10 requests. If it goes beyond that, then you will get a 404, or it will like the way you configure it. Okay, you need to
Yeah.
hit the server again after 15 minutes, or like let's say you have to wait for some time.
Right.
And this is what the basic implementation is. Now, since it is by default,
Request
it is
by IP right here, that's not some special string. What it's using is if too much stuff matches the block, request.ip, right? This could be
yeah, correct.
any nice name you
Yeah,
want.
this can correct. This can be anything, and these are the two parameters. Like this is a string just for our log purpose, like
Oh,
request by IP, and the limit and period is up to us. So
yeah,
if you get the request object, and then based on the request object, you can say okay on exactly what
yeah,
uh, parameter I have to rate limit, whether it is IP address. Now let's say if I go for something to rate limit my number of login attempts, like basically if in a lot of banking systems we have this. Since I am from India, so I can give you an example. Like let's say if you are you enter 3 incorrect passwords, your account will be logged for the next 24 hours. So something
your
like that. So
email,
where you yeah. So where you can
and
see like now this example is just like if request path is login and request is post, and I'm trying to access via the same email or the from the email within 1 minute, I would say like after 3 login attempts, I will basically block that. So that's a kind of rate limiting which you can implement. This is just a small example which I have
I got
added
a,
in the
I got a question.
yep.
So within 1 minute, somebody tries to log in with the same email address, and obviously they got to be doing it with the wrong password, right? What
Yep.
happens on the third request? Is there going to be some error shown to the user or nothing will happen? What's going to happen?
Yeah, so maybe I think right now in this code, I have not configured like it will raise an error and it will say, okay, you
Okay.
are blocked, something like that. But you can add your custom block there. You can add your error code there, and you can specify, okay, you can have error message like, okay, you are being redirected because,
Yeah.
and success or error message like
Yeah.
number of login attempts are more than 3. And that's something which we have to limit to.
So this is
Now,
cool. So now we got this rate limit function on the controller. So now we don't even, now it's like super easy to configure, right?
yeah, so because what was happening is like, let's say if you have a login controller in the above example, what we have seen, I have added to the rack attack.rb file. Let's say
Yeah.
tomorrow you have something on, for example, like on orders page. Let's say if you have an
Yeah.
e-commerce and you're trying to hit or scrape your orders page and you have to add a rate limit there, you have to go again to the rack attack.rb file and add that method there. So
Right.
that file will get very huge. In single file, you're storing all those rate limitings for different controllers. So I think what DHH came up with was a very great solution. Within the controller, you can add just pass the rate limit function at the top. So so that you have the parameters like two within, and these are the two main parameters what you can see. So two is like on 3 sign up attempts, and within is like within 1 minute or like 1 hour. If you get these, you can configure based on that.
Okay, but I
Okay,
got a
now
question. So with this rate limit to th 3 tries, right? So rate
three
limit is actually a method on
method.
application controller, right? It's a
Correct.
class
Yes.
method on application controller, so it gets called at the class method level, not inside of a method.
Yeah.
And it takes these name parameters. So two is like it limits up to 3 times. It's within 1 minute.
1 minute.
Now, what
And
is
all.
it? What is it
Yeah.
using? Like, is it using like, so it says, oh, here we go. My question is like it's limited to what, by what? And it's so by default, it's got a default to the IP address, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
but dude, that would be a nightmare if somebody just did that, right?
Yeah. So I think by default, what is the like what they kept in like rack attack gem? The
Yep.
motto behind that was similar to rack attack gem. They would keep like the default value by IP address where they will block it.
Right. So
But
kind of like everything is always by sort of IP address,
right.
except you're able to also configure like kind of the path.
Yeah. So only
Yep.
and these things are similar to like what we pass in before and after action.
Yep.
So only and except can be used. This is similar to like what we have in our callbacks, controller callbacks. Like if we go but the two main parameters are to and within. By is optional, as I said, because by default IP addresses are being tracked for rate limiting. But let's say
Okay.
if you want to go with like domain, so you can pass a by parameter like request.domain. Or let's say if you want to configure it via email, so you can go with like request.email. And what we did in the our previous example, so by is used for that.
Okay.
and
Wait, so
and
by request domain here, so you want to pass anything that's going to be evaluated dynamically is going to obviously go in this, what do you call that, a lambda?
Yeah, you can also pass a block. It's not necessary like you have to go with a lambda, because like it's a one liner, so you can pass a lambda there. But if it's like you have some custom method, like let's say this password is incorrect for this particular email, as I have mentioned, so you can like pass a block there or a method there.
Right.
So we have
So,
that
so, so,
flexibility.
so this syntax, that's a lambda, right? Just
Yeah,
some
that's
little,
a lambda. Yeah.
so you pass that in there. And so it's obviously, it has to be because this is, so with Rack Attack Gem, their
Hello.
API, say you pass a block with all the dynamic stuff. So with Rails, they're making it kind of like some of the other class level like model methods. So they'll take a lambda, like relations take a lambda sometimes, right? Scopes might take a lambda. So within 1 minute, you limit it to only new. So okay. So then so this you get a 429 too many request error, right?
Yeah. Correct.
So
So like yeah. Yeah.
okay,
Go
so
ahead.
then you could have the client handle that and do something or or not if you wanted.
Yeah.
So, so this is kind of cool. So you can pass in a with, right? So you could say that basically if it is rate limited, you can do something special, right? The default's at 429.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
can,
you maybe like don't want to expose the user. Okay, you have reached a limit, or I mean, that's up to you. But let's say this can be also configured to like let's say redirect to home path and alert. Okay, you can try it up to 15 minutes. Basically, like what Twitter has that like they give you an
okay,
particular time frame after which you have to hit us. I mean, that was long back when I worked with Twitter APIs, but this is something which we can do.
okay. So redirect to home path. Um, redirect. So this basically is doing a calling the method on the controller, redirect to home path, and passing the alert option there. All right.
Yeah,
So Rails likes to use the syntax of parameters that take a lambda and then as opposed to having a block. That's whatever. All right, cool. So
But
anything
there are
else?
few notes. I think now this note section won't be like a lot valid because I worked on this blog. I
Yeah,
think started working on this blog last week, and then it was I decided like this was a time frame when we would actually publish it. So
yeah,
just yesterday I came to know like I mean initially when DHS implemented this, there was a note like you have to use Redis. That is,
yeah,
and the version should also be like 1.7.0.
yeah.
But yesterday there was one pull request that got merged. Justin, I will share with you.
Here, I'll open up the pull request right here.
Uh, yeah, I have
For this
shared
one.
on.
And there's
Yeah,
another new one after
yeah,
this.
there is a new one. Yeah, right. I have just now I have slacked you actually.
All righty, let me
Yeah,
open that up.
yeah. So if you go over this pull request which I have shared in the blog, you will get to know like we you have to use Redis, and that too the version should be about 1.7.0. But just yesterday, like when I was going through the pull
All right.
request, like if you can see, like 14 hours ago, this
Yeah,
got merged.
for cache too. So you can even use solid cache. So then you're
Yeah,
even using Postgres, right?
correct. Yeah. So I think that's a great enhancement, and even DHS liked it. Like we should not be like tied to one particular framework
Yep.
for like, the rate limiting stuff, and this is like where action cache can be used. So yeah, this is something which maybe kind of our next topic can be.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm looking forward for that.
So how did they do that?
Even I'm like actually I have to go through the code, but I just observed. Okay, yeah, this is what they are doing.
Yeah, so previously they required Redis right there,
That
and
was the
then
code.
they removed the requirement from that.
Okay, so they are using the store object. So I think from the store they are, if you see line self dot cache story.
So here they said cache.store, but okay, so a lot of people though will use memcache.
Yeah, I mean,
So you don't use Redis at all then, right?
yeah, but I mean, as per like in my experiences, there are a lot of things like where they have used Redis a lot. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, definitely when we go with Sidekick and all these stuff, so even for rate limiting, they have used it because I think they have like the functionalities like after this number of seconds, this key should expire or something, and this would be like not there. But yeah,
yeah.
at the very start, I had worked with Memcache, and that has really performed well, like for the company which I was working for. And I mean, people have like a lot of options these days, so they can go with their configuration.
All right. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So rate limiting, yeah, it's just kind of like I think what's special about it is it just mainly gives us a kind of a nice,
easy
nice
way.
guide, yeah, to add it. So I'm not totally convinced it's like that much better than Rack Attack. It's been around forever. People might I think might need to use Rack Attack. Rack Attack's actually very useful for some other things. So if you go gem, rack attack. So if I get to the rack attack gem, it's I've seen it used in a lot of applications that we've worked on. And like I said, it'll filter out things like WordPress vulnerability scans, things like that.
Okay.
So there are I guess my point is this is that Rack Attack will do a lot more than just kind of like what the enhancement is in Rails. So you don't necessarily, need to get rid of it. So you see like
Yeah.
these things like here, it's just like, you know what, if it's including this sort of stuff, and then you just like block that IP address. So failed to
Yeah.
be right is
Something
stored in
which I saw about Rack Attack, like when I was blogging as well, it was about notifications, which they have actually implemented in the. I mean, if you go down in the logging and instrumentation section,
yep.
uh, I think they customizing no, not. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you see, are using a notification stuff as well, like a bit below. Yeah, just
Well,
that's just about testing. I think you missed it.
just above test case testing logging right here.
Yeah, logging and instrumentation. So if you see, yeah, once I was like going through this rack attack, so I did observe it. Maybe I think now since this was an initial part for like Rails 8 where they added
Yep.
uh, rate limiting, I think definitely they will come up with something. And uh, I think in the changelog as well in Rails 8, they are trying to, I think, unify some notification stuff. I don't
Yep.
exactly remember right now, but I think they are coming up with something. Initially, like you never had a active job, a centralized method. Now they have come up with this. So I think with rate limiting also they will come up with like notifications and all those stuff which Rack Attack is using. So I'm a bit optimistic on that side.
We can try. Yeah, but I don't see any reason why people should not use Rack Attack. I mean, I've seen Rack Attack in so many
Yeah, yeah.
projects. It's, I think it's only got 5.4 thousand stars. I should give it a star because these guys do a good job. And I bet they have, let's take a guess, Alkesh. How many downloads do you think Rack Attack has? Let's see who can get closer, you or me. What's your guess, Alkesh?
Uh, I think more than a million, definitely.
I'd say 20 million.
Oh, 20 million.
81 million, I'm way off. Okay, so there you go.
So I'm way behind.
I was off by a factor of four. I'll catch you are way, way off. But hey, anyway, that's it for this week's episode. I think Alkesh. So that was pretty fun. Got a chance to learn a little bit more about the throttling. Talked a little bit about rack attack. Rack attack still super useful. Um, looks like a little more syntactic sugar than revolutionary new functionality, in my opinion. But hey, you know what? That's what makes Rails great. A lot of that nice syntactic sugar. So that's a wrap for this week, Alkesh. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, Justin.